Hello and welcome to the ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣 Witchcraft podcast. And today we're talking about our friend, Dr. Google, apparently. This was a request. There's a request that was put in, I think it was a good couple of months ago now, but it has been on the list as a priority, but it's one of those ones which I kind of felt like we did something somewhat medical, healing, health related not too long ago, so I think we need to space out some of these kind of
but
public service announcement type ones.
naturally I feel like it goes a little bit further than kind of medical, in the sense that as most people kind of absorb their knowledge these days via the internet, and Google is kind of like the primary search engine for that people go and find things that are popular. And unfortunately for us kind of dark web enthusiasts, level practitioners, kind of means that if you're looking for something useful, you've got to fish through all those common searches that you get, which are all about intention, and are written by regurgitations from the spirit of Cunningham, rather than actually by him, if that's what I was trying to get at. So everything's absorbed through memes of memes, in my opinion, if that's how we kind of access magical knowledge these days. And I think one of the few safe places that we have is sacred texts, of all places, which was set up by Gnostics, if I remember rightly. So you just kind of like, actually, if that's kind of the safest that the internet gets, is by, retyped up regurgitation that may have been doctored, on the basis that they are typed up documents, aren't they, that build that website, sacred texts. They are hand typed. They're not documents that you download of like the original copies or PDFs or whatever. They are literally, some bugger has had to sit there and type them word by word in order to make them available via sacred text. I'm always amazed that place has never upgraded itself to a downloadable PDF, as most of these texts are available via like archive.org or whatever that Wayback Machine is built into.
I'm sure you can download PDFs of sacred text, because I have.
You can, but they're typed documents. They're
really
not like scanned scanned originals. Which is kind of what I want to see. I want to see that this was once a book. And that you've not just made it up for me. Which is always what I feel like I'm getting from sacred texts. I don't think it has grown beyond the 90s in its level of, web development, shall we say, for lack of a better word.
Is there not? Because I know this is kind of somewhat a bit relevant to what we're talking about, but normally this is a tangent that starts further into the podcast. But my way of thinking it is that, these great old occult books, like our one of our favorites, Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, people don't really wrestle with them and read them, and it's fine print. It's difficult to read physically, and in nowadays age of 3 minutes for a video clip, attention deficits and stuff like that, I think that, would you want it to be all super highbrow, multi-graphic, that kind of thing? I know we're building something not dissimilar to that, but I'm wondering if there is a certain amount of charm with the sacred text website, in that you really have to. It is painful. It should be painful. Should it not be painful?
I suppose if you want to go that kind of old schooly witchcraft. But my point is that I've sometimes got halfway through the first page of something on sacred text, and then I've gone, fuck it, I'm going to go find it in the British Library instead, because I can't cope with that kind of white pages and pages of Times New Roman sets me off as a trigger.
But surely it's kind of like one of those online Bibles. You don't sit there and read it. You just Google it to find the specific passage. You're like, oh, I'm sure it says something about that in the Bible. Where would it be? And you kind of put it in and it will load up Bible.com or something, like Google loads up as a suggestion. Bible.com, you know, Leviticus, such and such, such and such. And then, you know, oh, there it is. If you want to go and do some research and such, then you can go off and do that. But it kind of just is a database for skimming, I suppose. Right. So
just to add another tangent there, because you mentioned Bible.com. I'm currently rereading the book of Isaiah, just as a side comment.
Right. Any particular reason why?
Something on TikTok.
You're on TikTok.
What does TikTok
watch on TikTok? I'm sure we'd all like to know.
Lots of thirst traps, mainly.
Thirst traps. Okay. I thought that was more
traps, mainly.
Is that not Instagram?
No, because they come with 3-minute videos, don't they, on TikTok, rather than...
I thought that you had 3-minute videos on the Instagram and that. I'm way behind.
You do, but they're imported from TikTok, whereas I like the original.
Oh, right, that makes sense. Okay. Stupidity, going hand in hand with TikTok, is what I'd like to first open the discussion with, because I think we can all agree there is such a thing as a stupid person. There is stupidity. You know, there are IQ tests and such, and there are people out there that you would say are not particularly intelligent, and then you'll say there are people that are stupid. And for me, a stupid person is someone that doesn't just stick to making bad decisions because they're not very intelligent, because an unintelligent person may not make wise decisions. But stupidity goes a little bit beyond that, because stupidity isn't just about not being intelligent. I think it also goes hand in hand with a kind of blasé attitude and a kind of, I don't know, the Fool tarot card, the one that's like, oh, wandering about, blah, 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 and he's going to go off the edge of the cliff type thing, yeah? Very Rider-Waite, I know, but it's just what springs to mind. The Fool tarot card. Funny. Stupidity is one of those things. Right, Chris, where for you does stupidity on a kind of a level lie? Would you put it in an IQ range? Would you put it as, if you believe this, you are therefore evidently stupid? You know, in terms of when you think about a stupid person, or, you know, that kind of thing, how would one classify a stupid person?
Well, I tend to classify them not in intelligence, but in common sense. I've met some very, very smart people with very, very high IQs who are still regurgitate the same bollocks that you've heard 20 years ago. Because they don't move forward.
I've met very, very intelligent people with multiple PhDs that cannot use a drill and put up a shelf. Yeah. I find it very unusual. I find it so strange that but it is about absorbing information, isn't it? To a certain extent.
Yeah, they're different kinds of intelligence, aren't they? Like you lack emotional intelligence. Because you are a robot.
I do not lack emotional intelligence. I have you know that I am, what is it, the new classification? No longer sociopath or psychopath. In fact, dark empath is what I'm told. My new thing. No, that is actually from research that has been done at Crawford University. Is up and coming, cutting edge research into psychology. And there is such a thing now potentially as dark empaths, because
but psychology is a pseudoscience at best anyway.
Well, it is a pseudoscience, but that doesn't mean anything, Chris. because it is something where you can go and get letters after your name and set
You
yourself
can
up.
do. But you can also
Like,
get letters after your name for meteorology these days. And what's that other? What you can go and get a degree in bloody
Women's
mythological studies.
Women's studies, which has nothing to do with biology, apparently.
No, that's all about feminism, Liam.
I thought women's studies would have to do with like how the vajayjay works and, you know, all that sort of stuff. You should be able to ask someone that's got like a PhD in women's studies, like
where the clitoris is
through menopause.
Oh,
and like
okay.
something like that, and they come out with all sorts of useful information because they've really studied the female anatomy and female body and the things women go through. In reality, it just seems like there's a lot of blame. You know?
Okay.
Is that stupidity? Would you say that stupidity is if you dedicated yourself to something like a discipline for many years, and when you came out of that many years later, you still refused to believe that you'd wasted your time? There are some people stuck in marriages, no doubt, out there that are probably thinking, this translates to my life. But if you did, at what point do you give up?
I did a pointless degree.
You did a what degree?
I did a pointless degree.
Which one of your degrees do you consider to be pointless? It was the art one, wasn't it?
Well, no, my classics degree is my pointless degree, because ultimately all that does is say that I spent lots of time reading, like the same as if you did an English language degree, like, or a literature degree. You know, all they are, or any kind of humanities degree really, is I read a lot. You know, which I know is the traditional meaning of a degree. Is that, but my point is, it's not useful, is it? In the same way as if you went and became an engineer.
No, it's not STEM subjects, is it?
You know what I mean? Like, where you've actually got something at the end of it said, I did real research.
You mean I'm not actually build a rocket ship now? I went into it not really being able to build a rocket ship, but now I can actually build one in the garden.
Yeah, like there's that kind of practicality of it. Whereas I find, obviously, even though I did lots of, because my textiles degree, to me, again, isn't a pointless degree, because that means I can actually make clothes. You know, that is something that has an actual application.
Yeah.
An obvious one. Or going to be a doctor. Do you know what I mean? Like, those things have an application.
You can prescribe yourself stuff. That's always useful.
You know? But the actual kind of thought of going and doing a degree in, you know, even to a certain extent, psychology. I know I keep picking on that one. But there is that kind of like, well, actually, you could do that. Say, all you've got is, a very expensive certificate that says, I understand this because I've read lots about it. There's no practical application there in the sense, because you couldn't cure depression or whatever. You just have a better understanding of it than somebody else. Do you get what I mean? So
you can have high level intellectual arguments about definitions
very good at those
with other people. And sound very clever. But I thought that the only reason anyone ever went and did a degree in psychology is because they're fucked in the head and they want to understand why they're fucked in the head. One becomes a nurse to help people. One becomes a midwife to help people because they like the babies. Psychology, generally speaking, I think, and I've known numerous people that studied in different forms of psychology, whether it would be counselors, trained counselors, psychotherapists, that kind of thing. Even the ones that go more down the naughty route, which I'd class as the drug route, you know, where they just like to drug people. More pharmaceutical side of psychology. They all seem to go into it not really to help people. They all seem to go into it because they want to understand their own mind. And I don't know whether they do really understand their own mind. I don't know whether that is the best use of tens of thousands of pounds, whether they should go to some sort of retreat and have ayahuasca, because those people always seem to come back like way happier.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying pointless in the sense of don't do it. By all means, go do it. Like, the whole point of university to me is for you to go and explore something to its nth degree. Or at least that's what it meant to me. It wasn't necessarily about gaining a degree. It was more about the experience of going and studying something in that level of depth. Mm-hmm. And I will probably do multiple more later. They have no bearing on my actual life, but they will, give something back to me in that way. Whereas I think lots of people go and get degrees in the hope that it means a better job or a better life. Or they go and do drama. Like, do you know what I mean?
Jazz hands.
So,
well, it could be worse. You could go and do business degree. Business degree's got to be one of the worst degrees that you can do. I think the most useless degree, generally speaking, from what I've been told by people that have done the degree, is a degree in philosophy, because you cannot get a job in anything other than something related to teaching philosophy. Sometimes you can get a position on an ethics committee or something like that, but I mean, committees don't often pay well.
They really don't.
So stupidity, here's some interesting things, because there are people within the magical community, within our magical community, that is the Witchcraft Live Facebook group, ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣 Witchcraft podcast fans and such. There are people within, I suppose you could call, the Thoth community, if that is a thing, that look down on others and call each other stupid and think each other are stupid. We do it all the time. But where does that come from? What is stupidity? So if we go through some scenarios and then maybe relate them to magic and see what we see, to see if how many people that are listening would actually agree, because it's a struggle for us, I think. Stupid's a word that rolls off the tongue. It's just something that I find that I say it before I even realize I'm saying it. It's a reaction.
It's also a word that they often say you shouldn't use. It's become one of those PC words that say that there is somehow the word is designed to belittle people.
Well, to a certain extent, it's more. I think the word stupid is something that is a reaction to a shock. So you are shocked by something, and the way in which you are shocked by that thing relates to a word in the English language. So, for example, if you see someone doing something rather unsavory, your reaction might be, ugh, yuck. That's a reaction. If you see someone do something that's stupid, your reaction immediately is, that's fucking stupid. Because I think we now use English language in England quite a lot now. It's by far one of the most widely spoken languages in the UK is English now at this point. And people think very often in English if English is your first language. And we're so used to talking and using English to communicate that actually I think it marries up with the escape of breath. The escape of breath from a caveman might be like that. But nowadays we are a little bit more precise, I think. And nowadays the escape might be a tut, but it could be something like, what a fucking idiot. It's a reaction, I don't think. I don't decide to say what a fucking idiot. It just slips out, Chris. Most of the time. I'm surrounded by idiots.
See, I'd probably say twat, but then that's mainly because I think the word that describes, the body part that describes, is useless. So to me,
oh Gosh. Oh.
I go straight to twat because that means useless to me.
Not dick,
I
like
probably
a think with. Because
Nah.
it is a head that you can't think with. And the Greeks would certainly have said that you're thinking with the wrong head if you're always being led astray by that head, the little head. You've got to think with the big head.
Okay. I think about big heads, but that's a different thing.
Right. Let's move on. Right. So going back, so you can share some stories and stuff like that. You can make them up. They don't need to be real stories, but just for the audience to fully understand what's going on in the 10 minutes we've got left. Otherwise they'll be thinking, what the fuck was all that about? So obviously
I'm sure they think that every week.
Yeah, in my background in construction, people would often do what I'd consider to be really stupid things. And there would be people I've noticed that do stupid things, and stupidity, I don't know whether it's doing something that is not very smart, not wise, precarious even, or doing something that you know is unwise. They have that saying, who's more foolish, the fool or the fool that follows the fool? Well, the fool may not know they're a fool, but the person that follows the fool may know that the fool is a fool and follows them anyway. At the same time, the fool that follows the fool might not know the fool is a fool. So I suppose it depends, doesn't it? I judge people very, very harshly that should know better, but that still do stupid things and make stupid decisions. And from the realms of psychology and such, you know, there are a lot of people out there that say, well, Liam, you should not judge a person to do that. People make decisions all the time that they know are not the right decisions, but they fall into some kind of pattern of behavior and such. And I would say, yes, I understand the mechanism why someone made a stupid decision, right? Like a stupid decision if you're with a partner that physically abuses you, pretty stupid to stay. One needs to mount an escape plan, yes. But at the same time, there are psychologists out there would say, oh, but it's not that simple. It's not that simple. I would say I agree with you. It might not be that simple, but that person is stupid for staying in that situation.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate way to say stupid without meaning it in a harmful way.
Yeah. If I am smart enough to know that electricity is dangerous and I pull a plug socket off of the wall and start touching it with my fingers, I would say that's stupid because the person knows that electricity is dangerous, right? That's stupid. If there's some sort of weird snake on the ground that hisses, and I don't know, some tribes person comes and hits it with a stick or tries to pick it up or something like that, and that is not actually a snake, this is a live cable, but they don't know what a live cable is. That is that stupid? Is uninformed. It would look stupid from the position that I'm at because I know what electricity is. And most of the people, if not pretty much everyone that I know, knows what electricity is and how dangerous it can be. But putting yourself in that person's shoes. Now, there's a judgment that's been cast by one or two people. It's come up a couple of times, not too often, but people do get riled up about it. And that's stupidity that revolves around advice. And advice, we can only talk really about our groups and such like that. So whether it be advice given to someone in the Witchcraft Live group, advice given to someone in ☍𝕉𝕣𝕣𝕖𝕕 Witchcraft podcast fan group, right? But it is advice. It is people that are giving others advice or sharing things. Now, here's the problem. Opinion, although is vastly becoming more and more illegal, is not quite at the point of being totally illegal. Certain opinions, yes, certain opinions are illegal. You're not allowed to have them. You probably will be arrested if anyone finds out, unfortunately. Maybe not arrested, but there are things that will happen to you if you have certain opinions. And thought crime is becoming ever more a thing as technology as technology grows. Thought crime is actually becoming a thing now.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, I really think it's important to hear your perspective to see if we're on the same page with regards to the little communities we've helped foster. So if someone asks for advice or states a story of theirs, talks about their life or something like that, and someone chimes in a comment and gives what would be considered by you or me or what have you to be stupid advice or a stupid comment, right? What happens? What is that? Where do you stand on this? Do you stand on policing the comments and banning that person because they have gone over the threshold of stupidity, therefore they're not allowed in the group, and you police the group by keeping the group, some would say an echo chamber, but others would say people with an intelligence and experience level above a certain point? Or would you say no? What needs to happen is I need to comment underneath and say, this is my opinion better than your opinion because of this, this, and this? Or would you say, well, actually, this is just evolution. This is Darwin's theory of evolution. If the person's dumb enough
Survival of the fittest
or something, then that's just us keeping the numbers of the herd down, you know? Or is there other things? What factors in for you?
Well, you know me, I like that we don't intervene very much in the groups, and they normally would have to really have crossed a line for me to feel intervening. What, yeah. You know, like no holds, for example, it's no holds for a reason. That's, they fight for themselves. You know, I'm not going to jump in and necessarily comment unless it's being unnecessarily dramatic.
Yeah,
it would be very rare for me to step in there. I might throw the odd 2p in Witchcraft Live on the basis that that's our role as mentors, but generally speaking, I will normally leave enough time for people to have figured it out amongst themselves. You know, the great experiment that Witchcraft Live is. No, I'm more likely to have said something because someone has gone off at a newbie that has been around a little bit longer, where someone's been heavy-handed. I'm more likely to get involved there than I would. But no, I don't think the only people I've ever kicked out of either of our groups have been scammers.
Yeah.
And less so with no holds barred, because I feel like most with the scammers in there, they'll just be eaten alive by the people that are in there. Yeah. What did fascinate me recently, though, is I've seen an influx of people coming into no holds barred that don't know the shows.
Oh,
so there was one.
We've got a certain amount of people in there now. They're spreading, I would guess.
So, whereas before it always seemed to naturally be elitist by being a private group. So you wouldn't go searching for no holds barred unless you'd actually caught us somewhere else. But yeah, I don't think I judge people based on stupidity, because ultimately that with Witchcraft Live, that's what it's there for. It's there to learn.
For stupid people.
No, it's not for stupid people. But if, to me, someone stops being stupid when they start searching for an answer, when someone is self-aware enough to go, I don't know nothing, and I need to go and find out and seek real information, those people deserve to be in Witchcraft Live, don't they?
Okay. Right, that's it for this edition of the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. You can tune into the extended edition, but you've got to join the Patreon.